The security camera caught everything. Karen Martinez climbing over the fence, slipping on the pool deck, and crashing into the crystal blue water with a thunderous splash. But what happened next would turn a simple trespassing incident into a legal nightmare that would destroy her perfect suburban life piece by piece. Because sometimes, karma doesn't just knock on your door, it drowns you in your own lies. The first thing David Chen noticed when he pulled into his driveway that Tuesday evening wasn't the broken gate latch. It was the wet footprints leading away from his backyard pool. Dark, deliberate marks on the concrete that shouldn't have been there, considering he'd been at work all day, and his wife Sarah was visiting her mother in Portland. He killed the engine of his Tesla and sat for a moment, staring at the evidence of an intruder. The house he and Sarah had saved for 10 years to buy suddenly felt violated. This wasn't the kind of neighborhood where people just wandered into backyards. Maple Ridge was pristine, planned, and populated by the kind of people who kept their lawns manicured and their business to themselves. David's phone buzzed with a notification from his Ring security system. His pulse quickened as he opened the app, scrolling through the day's alerts. There, at 2:47 p.m., motion detected in the backyard. The footage made his blood run cold. A woman in a powder blue tracksuit was climbing over his 6-foot privacy fence, with surprising agility. She dropped into his yard, brushed herself off, and walked directly toward his pool as if she owned the place. David recognized her immediately. Karen Martinez from 3 houses down. The same Karen who'd complained to the HOA about his excessive outdoor lighting. The same Karen who'd called the city about their loud dinner parties that ended before 9 p.m. He watched, transfixed, as Karen kicked off her designer sneakers and sat on the edge of his pool, dangling her feet in the water. She looked around. His backyard with the casual entitlement of someone inspecting property she was considering purchasing. Then it happened. Karen stood up too quickly, lost her balance on the wet pool deck, and windmilled backward into the deep end with a spectacular splash. The camera captured every second of her flailing descent, the moment of panic in her eyes, and her frantic struggle to reach the surface. David found himself holding his breath as he watched Karen thrash in the water for nearly 30 seconds before managing to swim to the shallow end. She hauled herself out, mascara streaming down her cheeks, tracksuit clinging to her body like a wet second skin. The woman who always looked like she'd stepped out of a country club catalog now resembled a drowned cat. But instead of looking embarrassed or apologetic, Karen's expression shifted to something else entirely. She pulled out her phone, somehow still functional despite the dunking, and began taking pictures of herself, the pool, and the surrounding area. She even lay down on the pool deck in various positions, her face contorted in exaggerated pain. "You've got to be kidding me," David muttered, watching Karen stage what looked like an elaborate accident scene. The footage ended with Karen limping dramatically toward the fence, leaving behind a trail of chlorinated water and what David was beginning to realize might be the beginning of something far more serious than simple trespassing. He sat in his driveway for another 5 minutes, watching the recording 3 more times. Each viewing revealed new details that made his stomach churn. Karen hadn't just trespassed, she'd orchestrated something. The way she'd positioned herself for the photos, the deliberate nature of her movements after the fall, the calculated documentation of the scene. David's phone rang, startling him from his analysis. Sarah's contact photo filled the screen. "Hey, babe," he answered, trying to keep his voice steady. "David, thank God you picked up. I just got the strangest call from our insurance company. They said someone filed a claim against our homeowner's policy. Something about an accident at our house today." The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. David felt his throat constrict. What kind of accident? A slip and fall by. The pool. The woman claimed she was invited over and fell because of some negligent condition on our property. David? What's going on? I've been gone since Sunday, and you were at work all day. David closed his eyes, the security footage playing in his mind like a nightmare on repeat. Sarah, I need you to sit down. I'm already sitting. I'm at Mom's kitchen table eating leftover pot roast and trying to figure out why someone is suing us for $50,000. So please explain to me how someone got hurt at our house when neither of us were there. 50,000? David's voice cracked. Jesus, Sarah, she's claiming 50 grand. Who's she? David, you're scaring me. He took a deep breath and launched into the story, describing the security footage in painful detail. With each revelation, Sarah's responses grew more heated. Karen Martinez? That uptight witch who reported us for having pink flamingos in our yard? The same one. She broke into our backyard and then had the audacity to sue us when she fell into our pool? It gets worse. She staged photos after the fall. I watched her position herself on the deck and take pictures from multiple angles. This wasn't an accident, Sarah. This was planned. The line went quiet for a long moment. When Sarah spoke again, her voice was ice cold. Send me that footage. Send it now. While David uploaded the security video to their shared cloud storage, he noticed a silver sedan pulling into his driveway. A man in a rumpled suit emerged, carrying a briefcase and walking with the purposeful stride of someone bearing bad news. Sarah, someone's here. Looks like a process server. Don't sign anything until I get there. I'm leaving Mom's right now. It's a 4-hour drive, but I'll make it in 3. The man approached David's car window and tapped politely. David rolled it down, already knowing what was coming. David Chen, that's me. You're being served with a civil complaint. Premises liability case filed this afternoon. The man handed, over a thick manila envelope. Have a good evening, sir. David waited until the process server drove away before opening the envelope. The legal documents inside made his hands shake. Karen wasn't just suing for medical expenses. She was claiming permanent injury, emotional distress, and loss of consortium. The complaint painted a picture of gross negligence, alleging that the Chens had created a dangerous condition around their pool and failed to adequately secure their property. According to Karen's version of events, she had been invited to use the pool while the owners were away, a neighborly arrangement that had gone tragically wrong due to their negligent maintenance of the pool area. David's phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. I hope your insurance company is generous. Accidents happen, but negligence is expensive. K. His blood pressure spiked as he realized Karen was taunting him. She knew exactly what she'd done, and she was daring him to fight back. Another text arrived seconds later. BTW, I've already given my statement to my attorney. Amazing what a little water damage can do to someone's life. See you in court. David screenshotted both messages and forwarded them to Sarah, along with a text of his own. This woman has lost her mind. Sarah's response was immediate. No, she's about to. As David finally got out of his car and walked toward his house, he noticed something that made his stomach drop even further. Karen's car was parked at the end of the street, engine running, and she was sitting behind the wheel with her phone pressed to her ear. Even from a distance, he could see her gesturing animatedly as she spoke. She was watching him, studying his reaction to being served. Probably on the phone with her lawyer, describing his suspicious behavior and guilty demeanor. David forced himself to walk normally to his front door, but his hands shook as he unlocked it. Once inside, he immediately went to his computer and began downloading every piece of security footage from the past week. If Karen wanted to play games, he'd make sure he had ammunition. His phone rang again. This time it was his insurance company. Mr. Chen, this is Rebecca Torres from Pacific Mutual. I'm calling about the claim filed against your policy today. I need to schedule an inspection of your property and get your statement about the incident. Ms. Torres, before we go any further, I need you to know that I have security footage of the entire incident. The person who filed this claim committed criminal trespassing, and her fall was entirely due to her own illegal actions. There was a pause. Sir, that's quite different from what we were told. Can you email me that footage immediately? Already on it. As David composed the email to his insurance company, his doorbell rang. He peered through the peephole and saw a woman in a business suit holding a clipboard. Mr. Chen, I'm Detective Lisa Park with the county prosecutor's office. I understand you may have evidence related to a trespassing incident that occurred at your property today? David's heart hammered as he opened the door. How did you know about that? We received an anonymous tip about suspicious activity in your neighborhood. Someone reported seeing a woman behaving erratically around your property and suggested we might want to investigate before the situation escalated. David almost laughed. Karen had called the police on herself, probably hoping to establish some kind of record that would support her injury claim. Instead, she'd just handed him the perfect opportunity to file criminal charges. Detective Park, do you have a few minute? Part 2. The unraveling detective Lisa Park had seen plenty of insurance fraud cases during her 12 years with the prosecutor's office, but she'd never watched one unfold in real-time high-definition video. As David Chen's security footage played, on his laptop screen, her trained eye caught details that would make Karen Martinez's case collapse faster than a house of cards in a hurricane. Pause it right there, Park said, pointing at the screen where Karen was positioning herself on the pool deck. See how she's checking the camera angles? She knows exactly where your security system is positioned. David nodded grimly. She's been in our backyard before. Has to be. No one finds the blind spots that quickly by accident. Keep playing. They watched in silence as Karen methodically staged her accident scene, taking photos from multiple angles, even going so far as to splash additional water around the pool deck to make it appear more hazardous. This is premeditation, Park muttered, making notes. She came prepared with a plan, executed it, and documented false evidence. This isn't just trespassing anymore. We're looking at criminal fraud, filing false police reports, and potentially extortion. David's phone buzzed. Another. Text from Karen. Hope you're not planning to make this difficult. Accidents are easier to settle quietly. Think about your reputation in the neighborhood. He showed the message to Detective Park, whose expression darkened. She's threatening you now. Mr. Chen, I need you to document every contact she makes. Don't respond to any of her messages, but save everything. She's digging her own grave. As if on cue, David's doorbell rang. Through the peephole, he saw a news van parked outside and a reporter with a microphone standing on his porch. What the hell? David muttered. Detective Park moved to the window. Channel 7 News. Someone called them. She turned back to David, with a knowing look. Want to bet who? David opened the door to find Melissa Rodriguez, a local news reporter he recognized from the morning show. Mr. Chen, I'm Melissa Rodriguez from Channel 7. We received a tip about a serious accident at your home today. A neighbor claims she was severely injured due to dangerous conditions on your property. Would you care to comment? Before David could respond, Detective Park stepped into view. Ms. Rodriguez, I'm Detective Park with the prosecutor's office. I'd suggest holding off on that story until you have all the facts. The reporter's eyes lit up. Are criminal charges being filed? That's an ongoing investigation. No further comment at this time. As the news crew reluctantly left, David's phone rang. Sarah was calling from the road. David, I just saw the Channel 7 Facebook post. They're running a story about our house. They're making it sound like we're some kind of negligent homeowners who injured an innocent woman. It's worse than that. Karen called the media herself. She's trying to pressure us into settling by making this public. That vindictive witch. David, I've been thinking during this drive. Karen's husband works for Morrison and Associates, that big personal injury law firm downtown. This whole thing reeks of inside knowledge. Detective Park's head snapped up. Did you say Morrison and Associates? You know them? We've investigated them twice in the past 3 years for orchestrating fraudulent accident claims. Never had enough evidence to make charges stick, but if Mrs. Martinez has connections there... She paused, pulling out her phone. I'm calling this in to the fraud division. This case just got a lot bigger. David's laptop chimed with an email notification from his insurance company. Rebecca Torres had responded to his security footage with a message that made his heart race. Mr. Chen, after reviewing your video evidence, we're immediately rejecting Mrs. Martinez's claim and referring this matter to our fraud investigation. Unit, we're also notifying law enforcement. This is clearly criminal activity. Please preserve all evidence and expect a call from our legal team tomorrow. Detective Park, you need to see this. David showed her the email. She smiled grimly. Mrs. Martinez is about to have a very bad day. David's phone buzzed with a call from an unknown local number. Against Detective Park's advice, he answered, Is this David Chen? The voice was male, aggressive. Who's asking? This is Rick Martinez, Karen's husband. Look, my wife is really hurt, and you people need to step up and do the right thing here. She's got medical bills, trauma, the whole deal. We're not unreasonable people. But $50,000 is more than fair given what she's been through. David looked at Detective Park, who nodded and gestured for him to keep talking. Rick, I'm sorry your wife was hurt, but she was trespassing on my property? Trespassing? Rick's laugh was harsh. She was doing you a favor. You asked her to check on your pool while you were away. Don't try to rewrite history now that there's been an accident. I never asked her to do anything. I have security footage of her climbing over my fence. The line went quiet for several long seconds. When Rick spoke again, his tone had shifted. Security footage can be misleading, edited. You know how technology is these days. I'd hate for this to turn ugly, but my wife deserves compensation for her injuries. Are you threatening me? I'm just saying that sometimes these situations can get complicated, expensive, time-consuming, bad for everyone involved. Wouldn't it be easier to just work something out quietly? Detective Park was frantically scribbling notes, her expression growing more serious by the moment. Rick, I think you should know that there's a detective from the prosecutor's office sitting right here listening to this conversation. The line went dead immediately. Detective Park looked up from her notes. Extortion. Plain and simple. Mr. Chen, I want you to know that you're not the victim of a simple insurance scam anymore. We're looking at organized fraud, and based on what I just heard, the Martinez family is in this together. David's laptop chimed again. This time it was a Google alert he'd set up for his own name. The Channel 7 story was already online, complete with Karen's interview from earlier that evening. The video showed Karen in a neck brace, sitting in what appeared to be a hospital room, tearfully describing her traumatic experience at the Chen property. I was just trying to be a good neighbor, she sobbed into the camera. David asked me to check on things while they were away, and I slipped on their poorly maintained pool deck. The next thing I knew, I was underwater, fighting for my life. I could have drowned. David's mouth fell open. She's wearing a neck brace. She was fine when she climbed back over my fence. The interview continued with Karen describing her severe injuries and ongoing medical treatment. She claimed to have suffered a concussion, neck trauma, and psychological damage from nearly drowning. The worst part, Karen continued, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue, is how they're trying to blame me for their negligence. All I wanted was to help, and this is how they repay my kindness. Detective Park shook her head in amazement. This woman is either completely delusional or the most brazen criminal I've ever encountered. The news story ended with a statement from Karen's attorney, Morrison and Associates, announcing their intention to pursue full compensation for our client's devastating injuries caused by the defendant's gross negligence. David's phone exploded with notifications. Neighbors, co-workers, and friends who'd seen the news story were calling and texting, some offering support, others asking uncomfortable questions about what really happened. His doorbell rang again. This time it was his next-door neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, holding a casserole dish and looking deeply concerned. David, dear, I saw the news. Is everything all right? That poor woman seemed so badly hurt. Before David could explain, Detective Park intervened. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you not to discuss this situation with anyone right now. This is an active criminal investigation." Mrs. Patterson's eyes widened. "Criminal investigation? But the news made it sound like an accident." "The news doesn't have all the facts yet," Park replied diplomatically. After Mrs. Patterson left, Detective Park's phone rang. She answered with a brusque, "Park here." David watched her expression grow increasingly grim as she listened to whoever was on the other end of the call. "Are you sure? Both of them? When?" She glanced at David. "Okay, I'll be right there." She hung up and turned to David with a mixture of excitement and disgust. "That was my partner. We just executed a search warrant on the Martinez house based on your evidence and the extortion attempt. Want to guess what we found?" "What?" "A laptop with detailed files on at least 12 other accident scenarios, complete with medical documentation templates and target property assessments, insurance, fraud instruction manuals. And get this, Karen Martinez has been treated by the same compliant doctor for 17 different injuries in the past 5 years, all resulting in insurance settlements." David felt his knees go weak. 17? She's a professional victim. "Mr. Chen, you weren't her first target. You were just unlucky enough to have really good security cameras." Detective Park gathered her things. "I need to get back to the station. Karen and Rick Martinez are being arrested as we speak. I expect they'll both be charged with multiple felonies by morning." As she headed toward the door, she paused. "Oh, and Mr. Chen, you might want to call Channel 7. Something tells me they're going to want to do a follow-up story about this case." After Detective Park left, David sat alone in his living room trying to process everything that had happened in the span of a few hours. His phone buzzed. Part 3. The Identity. Sarah's voice crackled through the phone as she navigated the dark highway toward home, her laptop balanced on the passenger seat, FBI database searches running on multiple tabs. Her real name is Catherine Martinson. Sarah continued, her voice tight with controlled fury. "She's got a rap sheet in 3 different states under 4 different identities." "David, we're not dealing with some opportunistic neighbor. We're dealing with a career criminal." David sank onto his couch, watching through his front window as more news vans arrived. "How did you find this out? Remember my job at the State Attorney General's office? I still have access to certain databases. When Detective Park mentioned 17 previous accidents, I got curious. So I ran Karen's photo through facial recognition software." David's blood went cold. "What else did you find?" Catherine Martinson, age 38, originally from Phoenix. Served 18 months for insurance fraud in Arizona, moved to Oregon under the name Karen Mason, ran the same scam for 2 years before authorities caught on. Then she became Karen Matthews in Nevada, Karen Miller in Utah, and finally Karen Martinez here in Washington. David, she's been perfecting this con for over a decade. Outside, David watched Detective Park's unmarked car pull up, followed by what looked like federal agents in black SUVs. His doorbell rang immediately. "Sarah, I have to go. The FBI just arrived." "FBI? Jesus, David, what have we stumbled into?" Detective Park stood on his porch flanked by 2 agents in dark suits. "Mr. Chen, this is Agent Rebecca Walsh and Agent Marcus Torres from the FBI's Financial Crimes Task Force. We need to speak with you immediately." Agent Walsh stepped forward as they entered the living room. She was younger than David expected, with sharp eyes that seemed to catalog every detail of his house. "Mr. Chen, your security footage didn't just expose one insurance fraud case. It broke open a multi-state criminal enterprise. Catherine Martinson, the woman you know as Karen Martinez, is part of an organized fraud ring that's stolen over $2 million from insurance companies across the western United States." Agent Torres opened a tablet and showed David a series of photos. "These are properties in 5 different states, where Martinson has staged identical accidents. Swimming pools, stairs, icy driveways, always the same pattern. She scouts targets, establishes residency nearby, then executes carefully planned accidents at homes with good insurance coverage and sympathetic circumstances. David studied the photos, his stomach churning. Each image showed the same staging, the same poses, even the same injuries Karen had claimed at his house. "How many victims?" David asked. 43 confirmed cases over the past 8 years, Walsh replied. "But we suspect there are more." Martinson works with a network of corrupt doctors, compliant lawyers, and even compromised insurance adjusters. Your case is the first time anyone caught her in the act. Detective Park pulled up David's security footage on his laptop. "Show them the part where she checks her phone right before climbing the fence." Agent Torres leaned forward as the video played. "There, she's getting final instructions from someone. Martinson never works alone. She's always got a handler coordinating the operation." A handler? David felt like he was living in a spy thriller. Someone who identifies targets, researches the homeowners, and provides logistical support. In this case, we think it's her husband, Rick. Or rather, the man posing as her husband. His real name is Richard Kostansky, and he's got his own impressive criminal record. David's phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "I'm pulling into the driveway. FBI cars everywhere. What did I miss?" He showed the message to Agent Walsh, who nodded. "We'll need to speak with your wife, too. Her research actually helped us connect several missing pieces." When Sarah walked into the house 5 minutes later, she looked like a woman on a mission. She carried her laptop, a stack of printed documents, and the kind of focused intensity that David recognized from her prosecutorial days. "Agent Walsh, I presume?" Sarah shook hands briskly with the federal agents. "I've been doing some research of my own, and I think you're going to want to see what I found." Sarah opened her laptop and pulled up a complex spreadsheet. "I cross-referenced Catherine Martinson's known aliases with insurance payouts, property, records, and local news stories in each city where she operated. The pattern is remarkable." She clicked through a series of documents. Phoenix, 2016, Kathy Martinson falls downstairs at a rental property, settles for $45,000. Bend, Oregon, 2017. Karen Mason slips on a wet deck, gets $38,000. Las Vegas, 2019, Karen Matthews has a pool accident, walks away with $52,000. Each time she moves to a new state, establishes residency for exactly 1 year, then executes her scam and disappears. Agent Torres was taking rapid notes. "How long has she been in Washington?" 11 months, Sarah replied, "which means we caught her just before she was planning to move on to her next hunting ground." Agent Walsh's phone rang. She stepped away to take the call, returning with grim news. "That was our team at the Martinez house. We found plane tickets to Portland, Oregon, departing tomorrow morning. One-way tickets under new identities. Kevin and Kelly Morgan." David felt a chill run down his spine. "They were going to disappear tonight? If you hadn't called the police, Catherine Martinson would have been gone by morning with $50,000 of your money, and you never would have seen justice." Detective Park looked up from her own phone. "Speaking of justice, I just got word from the prosecutor's office. Morrison and Associates is being raided right now. Turns out James Morrison has been laundering fraud proceeds for Martinson's network for years." Sarah's eyes lit up. "I found connections to Morrison in my research. Every single one of Catherine's successful settlements was handled by law firms that had previous connections to Morrison's practice." Agent Walsh gathered the documents Sarah had provided. "Mrs. Chen, this research is going to help us prosecute, not just Martinson and Kostansky, but potentially dozens of co-conspirators across multiple states. You may have just dismantled one of the largest insurance fraud rings in the country." David's phone rang. Channel 7 News was calling. "Don't answer that yet," Agent Torres advised. "We're coordinating media releases with the U.S. Attorney's Office. This is about to become a very big story." As if summoned by his words, the news vans outside suddenly came alive with activity. Reporters emerged from their vehicles, camera crews assembled their equipment, and David could see neighbors gathering on the sidewalk to watch the federal investigation unfold on their quiet suburban street. Agent Walsh's radio crackled. "Base. To Walsh. We've got a problem. Go ahead, Base. Catherine Martinson posted bail 20 minutes ago. She's in the wind." The room went dead silent. David felt his blood pressure spike. "How is that possible? Didn't you say she was a flight risk?" The bail was posted by someone using a cashier's check from a Nevada bank. "Whoever is running this operation has serious resources, and they just bought Martinson her freedom." Detective Park was already reaching for her radio. "I'm putting out a BOLO alert. If she's smart, she's already heading for the airport." Sarah closed her laptop with a sharp snap. "She won't run." Everyone turned to look at her. "Excuse me?" Catherine Martinson has spent 8 years building a perfect system. She's never been caught, never been exposed, and never failed to collect a payout. Her entire identity is built around being untouchable. Sarah's voice grew harder. "She's not running because she can't accept that she lost. She's going to try to salvage this operation, which means she's going to come after us." Agent Walsh frowned. "Mrs. Chen, that's a serious accusation. What makes you think—" Sarah held up her phone, showing a new text message from an unknown number. "You think you've won? This is far from over. You have no idea who you're dealing with." David's phone buzzed with an identical message. "Agent." Torres was already on his radio, calling for additional security. "This changes everything. If Martinson is threatening the witnesses, we need protective custody protocols." "No," David said firmly. "We're not running from this woman. She picked our house, she violated our property, and she tried to destroy our lives. If she wants to escalate this, bring it on." Sarah nodded grimly. "David's right. But Catherine made one crucial mistake." "What's that?" "She doesn't know that I've identified every single member of her network, every corrupt official who helped her, and every bank account where she's hidden her stolen money." Sarah smiled coldly. "While she's been sitting in jail plotting her revenge, I've been building the case that's going to put her away for decades." Agent Walsh looked at the documents Sarah had compiled with growing amazement. "How did you put all this together in one evening?" "I used to prosecute financial crimes for the state. I know how these operations work, and I know their weaknesses." Sarah pulled up another screen on her laptop. "Catherine Martinson may be good at staging accidents, but she's terrible at digital security. Every email, every phone call, every financial transaction, it's all documented and traceable." David's doorbell rang. Through the peephole, he saw a woman in a business suit holding a large manila envelope. "Process server!" he called out to the agents. Agent Torres looked through the peephole and shook his head. "That's not a process server. That's Lisa Hendricks from Morrison & Associates, and she looks terrified." David opened the door to find the attorney. Part 4. The confrontation, Catherine Martinson's silver sedan crept down Maple Ridge Drive like a predator stalking wounded prey. Through the FBI's surveillance scopes, agents could see her checking her phone, adjusting her rearview mirror, and scanning the neighborhood with the calculated precision of someone who had orchestrated dozens of similar operations. What she couldn't see were the 12 federal agents positioned around David Chen's house, the police snipers on neighboring rooftops, or the digital net that Sarah Chen had spent the evening weaving around her entire criminal enterprise. Agent Walsh's radio crackled with updates from the surveillance team. "Target is stopping 2 houses down. She's sitting in the vehicle, appears to be making phone calls." Through David's front window, the scene looked deceptively quiet. News vans had been pushed back 3 blocks. Neighbors had been evacuated from the immediate area, and the street lamps cast an eerie glow over what appeared to be a normal suburban evening. "She's buying time," Sarah observed, studying Catherine's behavior through binoculars. "She knows something's wrong, but she can't figure out what." Lisa Hendricks, The attorney from Morrison and Associates was sitting at David's kitchen table, frantically copying files onto FBI laptops while narrating the criminal network's operations. "Catherine never moves without an exit strategy," Hendricks explained. "She's got escape routes planned, fake documents ready, and cash stashed in multiple locations. But she also has a fatal flaw. She can't resist finishing what she starts." Agent Torres looked up from the files Hendricks had provided. "These financial records show payments to over 30 co-conspirators across 7 states. This isn't just insurance fraud. This is organized crime." David's phone buzzed with a text from Catherine. "I know you're watching me. Let's talk like civilized people. Come outside alone." Agent Walsh immediately shook her head. "Absolutely not. She's trying to isolate you from protection." Sarah was studying the street layout on her laptop. "She's parked in a position where she can see both exits from our neighborhood. If this goes bad, she's got multiple escape routes." Another text arrived. "I have photos of your wife leaving the state attorney general's office last month. Interesting what people will do when their families are threatened. Come outside now." David felt rage building in his chest. "She's threatening. Sarah, she's desperate," Agent Walsh corrected. "Desperate criminals make mistakes." Detective Park's radio squawked with an urgent transmission. "All units be advised. We have movement on Catherine Martinson's bank accounts. Someone just transferred $200,000 from a Nevada account to an offshore shell company." Sarah looked up sharply from her laptop. "She's liquidating assets. This isn't about revenge anymore. She's preparing to disappear permanently." Agent Torres received a phone call that made his expression darken considerably. After hanging up, he turned to the group with grim news. "That was our financial crimes unit. They've traced Catherine's network to a money laundering operation that's been funneling stolen insurance proceeds through cryptocurrency exchanges. We're not just dealing with a fraud ring. We're looking at connections to international organized crime." David's phone rang. Catherine was calling. Agent Walsh nodded for him to answer, but gestured for everyone to remain silent. "Hello, Catherine. Or should I call you Kathy? Or Karen? It's hard to keep track of all your identities." Catherine's laugh was cold and humorless. "Very good, David. You've been doing your homework, but you have no idea what you've stumbled into. Enlighten me. You think this is about $50,000? You think this is about one insurance claim?" Her voice grew harder. "I represent interests that span multiple countries and handle hundreds of millions of dollars annually. Your little security camera footage has disrupted a very sophisticated operation." Sarah was frantically typing, running voice recognition software to record and analyze Catherine's call. "And now," Catherine continued, "those interests want compensation for the damage you've caused. $2 million transferred to an account I'll specify, and this all goes away quietly." $2 million? David almost laughed. "Catherine, you're facing federal charges. Your entire network is being dismantled. Your husband is in custody, your lawyer is cooperating with the FBI, and you're about to spend the next 20 years in federal prison." "Am I?" Catherine's tone shifted to something darker. "David, look at your neighbor's house. The blue one with the white trim." David peered through his window toward the Patterson house and felt his blood freeze. A red laser dot was dancing across the front door. "That's a rifle sight," Catherine said casually. "Now look at the house across the street, the one with the yellow shutters." Another red dot appeared, this one moving across the Johnsons' living room window. Agent Walsh was already barking orders into her radio. "Sniper teams, we have hostile targets in the neighborhood. Engage and neutralize." "You see, David," Catherine continued, her voice taking on an almost conversational tone, "when you disrupt a multi-million-dollar operation, there are consequences. My associates don't appreciate losing money, and they're very creative about collecting debts." The street exploded into chaos. FBI agents emerged from hidden positions, SWAT teams materialized from seemingly empty houses, and the quiet suburban evening transformed into a tactical operation. Through the confusion, David could see Catherine's sedan accelerating toward his house, but instead of fleeing, she was driving straight toward his driveway. "She's coming here," David shouted. Agent Torres was coordinating with the tactical teams. "All units, target vehicle is approaching the primary location. Do not let her reach the house." But Catherine was driving with the precision of someone who had planned this exact scenario. She swerved around the FBI roadblock, jumped the curb, and crashed through David's front yard fence, coming to a stop just 20 feet from his front door. Sarah grabbed David's arm. "She's not trying to escape. She's making a final stand." Catherine emerged from her damaged sedan, not with her hands up in surrender, but carrying a laptop bag and what appeared to be a small explosive device. "Everyone back!" Agent Walsh screamed. "She's got ordnance!" Through a bullhorn, Catherine's voice carried across the yard. "David Chen, Sarah Chen, you want to know how deep this goes? You want to see what you've really accomplished? Come outside, and I'll show you." Lisa Hendricks looked up from the FBI laptops with terror in her eyes. "The device she's carrying, it's not a bomb. It's a data destruction unit. If she activates it, it will destroy every electronic device within a 100-meter radius. All the evidence, all the financial records, everything we've collected, it'll all be wiped clean." Agent Walsh's face went pale. "How do you know that?" "Because Morrison and Associates provided them to Catherine's network. Insurance against exactly this scenario." David felt pieces clicking into place. "She's not here to hurt us. She's here to destroy the evidence and disappear while everyone's distracted by the tactical response." Sarah was already moving toward the back door. "Not if I can help it." "Sarah, no." But she was gone, slipping out the back entrance while the FBI's attention was focused on Catherine's dramatic front yard confrontation. Through the chaos outside, David could hear Catherine shouting, "You think you've won? You think exposing one network matters? There are dozens of others operating in cities across America. You've accomplished nothing but painting targets on your own backs." Agent Torres received an urgent radio transmission. "Command, we've lost contact with Mrs. Chen. She's not in the house." David's heart stopped. "What do you mean you've lost contact with her?" Agent Walsh spun around, realizing their tactical focus had been manipulated. "She's using Catherine's confrontation as a distraction. But for what?" David's phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Catherine made one crucial mistake. She parked her escape route in our driveway. Check your email in 60 seconds. Outside, Catherine was still demanding that David and Sarah come out to face her, unaware that Sarah was no longer in the house, and David was beginning to understand his wife's plan. Agent Torres's radio crackled. "All units, we have movement behind the target vehicle. Unknown female approaching from the rear." Through his front window, David could see Sarah emerging from the shadows behind Catherine's damaged sedan. She was carrying something. David squinted and realized it was a laptop and what appeared to be several external hard drives. "She's copying Catherine's data," David breathed. Catherine finally noticed Sarah approaching from behind. She spun around, her face contorting with rage. "You clever little prosecutor, but you're too late." Catherine raised the data destruction device above her head, preparing to activate it. That's when Sarah held up Catherine's own laptop, the one she'd retrieved from the crashed sedan. "Looking for this?" Sarah called out. "Because while you've been making dramatic speeches, I've been uploading 8 years of your criminal records to FBI servers around the country. Every financial transaction, every co-conspirator, every piece of evidence, it's all preserved and beyond your reach now." Catherine's face went white as she realized the trap she'd walked into. The data destruction device in her hands was useless if the evidence was already secure in federal custody. But Catherine Martinson hadn't survived 8 years as a career criminal by giving up easily. She smiled coldly and reached into her jacket, pulling out what David immediately recognized.